Teresa Giudice lacked passionate love for ex-husband Joe Giudice. Here's why she married him. Teresa Giudice is reflecting on her marriage to Joe Giudice, admitting he was not the one for her. The Real Housewives of New Jersey star confessed that they didn't have passionate love, unlike in her current marriage to Louis Rulas. During the interview, the mom of four raved about her new husband and noted that her ex is the opposite of Louis. Teresa reasoned that she had 4 beautiful kids with her ex-husband, but that was it. The Bravo celebrity explained why she decided to marry Joe, admitting that he was a safe choice after she got hurt in a prior relationship. Joe was someone she had known all her life, and their parents were best friends, but their decision to marry wasn't a grand love story. However, Teresa has finally found true love with Louis. Teresa Giudice made beautiful babies with Joe Giudice. Teresa might be in a love bubble with Louis Rulas, but that wasn't the case during her first marriage. The RHONJ star made that admission during a chat with TMZ, explaining that her past marriage to Joe and her current marriage to Louis is like night and day. Teresa referenced her parents' marriage, noting how attentive they were to each other. "That's how Louis is with me. He's so attentive," she said. "My ex was not attentive at all. He was just very old school. Looking back now, Joe was easy, but he just wasn't my guy," she continued, noting that while her ex was a good guy, he wasn't the person she was meant to be with. "We made beautiful babies together, but that's about it," exclaimed Teresa. Here's why the RHONJ star married Joe Giudice. The RHONJ star shared more details about her and Joe, starting with why she decided to marry him. Teresa said before her relationship with Joe, she had dated a guy for 6 years on and off, and he cheated on her. "I knew Joe my whole life. Joe's parents and my parents were best friends growing up," reasoned the 52-year-old. "So I just thought Joe was safe." Admittedly, though, there wasn't any passionate love between the former couple. However, the mom of 4 has found that after meeting her true love, Louis Rulas. "I see the difference between me and Joe and me and Louis," she added. "It's just different. I can't explain it." Despite their split, Teresa and her ex-husband are on good terms, and Joe and Louis also get along great, making for a perfectly blended family. Are you surprised that Joe and Teresa were not passionately in love during their marriage? Teresa Giudice has never been one to shy away from the truth, at least, not when she's ready to tell it. For years, she portrayed her marriage to Joe Giudice as a classic love story, a ride-or-die partnership that could withstand anything. They had the big Italian wedding, 4 beautiful daughters, and a lifestyle that, until it all came crashing down, seemed straight out of a reality TV fairy tale. But time has a funny way of revealing things, and in the years since her split from Joe, Teresa has been more open about what their relationship really was. Recently, she dropped a bombshell. There was never a deep, passionate love between her and Joe. So why then did she marry him? The comfortable choice. In many ways, Joe Giudice was the obvious choice for Teresa. They had known each other since childhood, growing up in the same tight-knit Italian-American community in New Jersey. Joe was the neighborhood tough guy, the one with the swagger, the confidence, and the bad boy edge that teenage Teresa probably found exciting. But more than that, he was familiar. Sometimes familiarity feels like love, especially when it's all you've ever known. When Teresa and Joe got together, she wasn't exactly exploring her romantic options. She had been with him for so long that the idea of being with anyone else might not have even crossed her mind. In her world, marrying someone from the community, someone with shared values, a similar upbringing, and a family-first mentality was expected. Joe fit the mold perfectly. But fitting the mold isn't the same as setting your heart on fire. The influence of tradition. Italian families like Teresa's place a strong emphasis on marriage, family, and loyalty. Divorce isn't taken lightly, and women are often encouraged to choose stability over whirlwind romance. Teresa was raised with these values, and Joe was a safe bet in that regard. He came from the same background and had the same beliefs about family. In her younger years, Teresa may not have questioned whether she felt passionate, all-consuming love for Joe, because was that even something she had been taught to expect? Love, in her world, was about commitment, children, and keeping the family together. Passion was secondary. Joe, for all his flaws, could provide for her. He could give her the house, the kids, the lifestyle she dreamed of. And for a while, that seemed like enough. A marriage built on practicality, not passion. From the outside looking in, Joe and Teresa had an exciting life together, especially when the Real Housewives of New Jersey put them in the spotlight. They threw extravagant parties, went on lavish vacations, and lived in a sprawling mansion that looked straight out of a fairy tale. But behind closed doors, cracks were forming. Joe was often dismissive of Teresa, talking down to her in ways that fans of RHONJ picked up on immediately. He called her names, belittled her, and at times even seemed indifferent to her presence. When Teresa was asked in later years if she felt a deep passion for Joe, she admitted that it was never there. Perhaps at the start, she convinced herself that passion would come with time. That once they built a life together, once they had children, the feelings would deepen. But instead of growing closer, they drifted apart. The wake-up call, legal troubles and separation. Their legal troubles were the ultimate stress test, one that their marriage failed spectacularly. When both Teresa and Joe were sentenced to prison for fraud, their relationship was put under a microscope. Teresa served her time first, and when she was released, she had changed. Prison forced her to reflect on her life, her choices, and what she truly wanted. When Joe served his time and was ultimately deported to Italy, the emotional distance became physical as well. Teresa could no longer ignore what had been clear for years. They weren't in love. They had a life together, but that wasn't the same as a deep, unshakable connection. By the time she visited Joe in Italy, their marriage was already over. The warmth, the affection, none of it was there. They had become more like old acquaintances than life partners. Finding passion with Luis Ruiz. When Teresa met Luis Ruiz, everything was different. Unlike Joe, Luis showered her with affection. He spoke to her with kindness, lifted her up, and made her feel cherished in a way that she never had before. For the first time, she experienced what it was like to be in a passionate, romantic relationship, one where she wasn't just settling for the expected, but truly choosing what made her heart race. Luis, of course, has come with his own controversies. His past relationships and business dealings have been scrutinized, and some have questioned his intentions. But to Teresa, none of that matters. What matters is that, for the first time, she feels loved in a way that she never did with Joe. A lesson in love and self-worth. Teresa's story is one that many women can relate to. How often do people settle for what feels comfortable, rather than what sets their soul on fire? How many marriages are built on expectation, rather than true love? For years, Teresa may have believed that her duty as a wife and mother was to keep the family together, no matter what. But as she grew, as she faced hardships, and came out the other side, she realized that she deserved more. She deserved passion. She deserved to be with someone who made her feel alive. Joe Giudice was her past. He was the familiar, the expected, the safe choice. Luis Ruiz, for better or worse, represents something different. He represents a woman choosing love, not just obligation. And for Teresa Giudice, that may be the biggest transformation of all.